All right, so, hi. I am Silas. As Reddy mentioned, I'm on the team that does QA development work here at the Times, and as I was saying, the thing that I'm going to be talking about today is a tool that we've been developing to do test reporting for our functional automation suites. Our systems internally, what we have is the framework that Reddy alluded to that handles interfaces into our systems under test, managing our business data model, and managing our data sets that we use for our data-driven testing. We use Nose for test discovery and for handling management of test fixtures. And we have a plugin that plugs into our framework to control data-driven testing through our interface, and it does some rudimentary reporting. As anybody that's used Nose, it's definitely rudimentary, right? We have Hudson to basically manage a level above Nose to schedule our tests and manage our test suites. And again, deriving from XUnit reporting from Nose, we have some test results, some level of test reporting in Hudson, but again, Hudson is not the best thing for test reporting either. But we really like Python because we actually like to have the flexibility to write our tests in proper programming language instead of using, one of those graphical test writing tools that tend to not be great. So, as I was saying, some of the problems we've run into, our jobs don't necessarily map one-to-one to a test suite because we have parameterized jobs, right? So, say we run our e-commerce test suite, right? And we have a parameter to specify whether it's, the BVT run or like a full regression suite. But I don't know how many of you are familiar with what Nose's reporting looks like. It gives you a little graph of your history, but obviously if you're running different sets of tests from the same job, that really doesn't mean anything to you anymore, right? So that's one problem. The dumped XUnit tests, they can be kind of confusing to dig into. They're just flat text. They don't capture all the data we want, like for instance, where we ran the test. They're not particularly searchable, and they're poorly archived since it just derives from the history of Hudson, and Hudson culls itself sometimes when you really wish it didn't. And then lastly, the results are not responsive. So if you have a large functional automation suite, it can take multiple hours to run, right? Given that you still want to be able to see, I mean, your tests aren't going to be an 8-hour-long test, right? You're going to want to see, a couple of minutes into it, 5 tests have run, this is what's happened, this is all your log results. But if you're relying on Hudson to give you your reporting, you're not going to see pretty much anything about what's happened until the end of the test run. So 7 hours later, hey, look, you got all this stuff, which was not particularly useful if you were trying to be, maybe agile. So, the tool, Sneeze and Pocket Change. So, here's a logo soup of things that have logos and then something that doesn't have a logo. Obviously, I'm not a graphic designer, so that's Nose. So, Sneeze and Pocket Change. It's structured as a plugin to Nose, and basically there's a pluggable plugin. So Sneeze is the Nose plugin component that itself is pluggable. It basically manages the logging of test state, what's currently running, your test result, and then allows plugins to add other things that we're keeping track of while the tests are running. Then Pocket Change is the front end that displays all these things. And if you want to ask me why these things are named that way, we can get into that later. Reddy really hated the name of the last project that I came up with, so I spent some time thinking about these ones. Oh geez, you can mostly make out this image. So as I was saying, the sort of overarching architecture of the system, you have our tests written in our framework, you have nose, you have sneeze, and then you have pocket, which is the component that actually pushes log messages associated to an executing test into our reporting database. And it just pulls everything out of the logging module. So obviously there's some hacking that I had to do, so that's a place for improvement there. But in any case, pushes out to the reporting database, and then Pocket Change, which is the web GUI, sits there in front to let you look at everything, and it's nice and pretty. So here's some example code. Hopefully most of you guys can read it. This is just some setup stuff. So all this is a test, obviously completely synthetic, that assigns some variables, does some math with them, and does some validation that prints some stuff, or that logs some stuff through logging module on top of the, when you're doing the validation. And then this is just a test that logs, it loops 600 times and logs a message each time and then sleeps for 1/10 of a second. So this is how we run it. It just adds a few more available parameters to nose. So nose tests, I guess I should probably mention that it has a concept of test cycle. So a test cycle is just a collection of test results. So the idea is you can, for instance, say you have, you're doing like an agile thing and you have like a 2-week sprint, and say you have a daily build process that runs a suite of functional automation tests. So with the current, the idea is when we build this out a little more, I mean, it technically supports it under the hood, but there's nothing built on top of it yet, that you can have basically like parent and child test cycles. So you could have a test cycle for like a sprint or a build, and then child test cycles for each day. Or if you want to do something else like, say a developer is actually working on a ticket, they can have like a test cycle to track their work through a number of bugs that have been filed, and show like basically in real time, hey, look, this test failed. Here's this collection of test results, and I did some work, and then I ran this test again, and now it passes. So that's kind of nice. I had a live demo that people could log into, but unfortunately, it wasn't working friendly with the network. So instead, I will just show. So this is the application. So what you get is a list of all the test cycles that have been run, and it's filterable. Right now, this just filters simple text substring search on either the name or the description. And then you can, so this is all the tests, all the test cases that have been written, or that have been run as part of this cycle. So as you can see here, this is the doc string, so you actually get the pittified version, and then this is the test ID that's sort of a nose internal. There's some features that we have that allow you to do reruns from data directly from those, because there's also a REST API on this, directly from the Sneeze plugin component, because there's actually a REST API on this too that gives you some more information, and we want to build this out in the future to actually have execute capability directly from the GUI. Obviously right now it's one way, but we want to make it two-way. So, and then this is filterable, so you can look at all tests that have any only passes or only failures, and this is dynamic, so if you have multiple, however many result states you have filters for. And then, if we go in here, so this is all the information that we logged from this test, and as you can see, you get the logger. This is just the logger name that it was logged to. So, and again, in here we want to add I didn't have time today to add it. But another filter, another set of filters, so you can, filter by log level. You can filter by the logger it came from. So clearly, the idea here is you get, you would be able to build your tests in such a way that they essentially print out exactly the steps that they went through to get to where they got, which is very nice if you're trying to go in and reproduce an issue instead of having to run the test with a breakpoint and all that kind of nonsense. And then let me just run cycle. There we go. I just wanted to show, not that one. Yeah, so here's an example of multiple results into the same test within a test cycle. And then I just wanted to show what it looks like as it's running. So let me just kick off, if I can. If I can stop fighting with my cursor for a second here, and actually get it to show up over here. It actually will show you if a test is currently executing, it shows pending instead of pass or fail, and it actually logs. It has a number of settings for how frequently you want to spit out information. So you can set like number of log messages, every 10 seconds or every 150 messages, so you can kind of control that too. So that's pretty much the extent of this, and if we go back over to my presentation. So we are actually, this is open sourced. We just got it up on public GitHub today. So you guys can go, if you have interest in looking, there. And you can look through all our repos for Sneeze, which is the core plugin, and then Pocket, and there's actually another component. If we go back to this guy, some of you might have noticed that guy. There's actually a plugin for Sneeze that integrates with JIRA, so it will a test cycle will have an issue that's associated to it. And you can like link that directly to your, your other workflow tasks in JIRA if you happen to use JIRA. We do, so that's why we have that. But yeah, that's pretty much the extent of the project. And if you guys are interested, we're more than, we're definitely interested in any ideas or bugs that you might find. And if you're interested in contributing, we're definitely looking for pull requests and any other ideas you might have. Okay, I guess we have time for questions, so awesome. Question?
On one of the slides that showed a DB, is it here about what type of DB? Is it
No. It's, he's asking what database the database referred to. It's SQL Alchemy. So any driver that you can use with SQL Alchemy should work. I mean, it's using SQL Alchemy models, so.
Is it inserting the results of all of those tests into the DB?
Yeah, that's the whole idea of the tool. So it's targeted at managing functional automation results in sort of an enterprise environment. I mean,
so does the browser then shoot off a select statement to get all those results?
well,
How did you get all
it's a Flask app. Yeah. Any other questions? So Nose is just a unit testing framework. All it does is test discovery and like fixture management kind of stuff. The the whole reason that this kind of exists is because we like writing our tests in a actual programming language instead of being restricted. There's lots of tools out there that have these sort of reporting interfaces, but you're forced to use like their sort of gimped custom programming language or some like graphical record and playback kind of thing. And those honestly kind of are terrible for doing anything beyond the demo that they show you on their website. So the idea was to add the nice features of those tools onto a flexible testing framework. I mean, it's just Python, right? So anything you can do in Python, you can use to run a test, or you can use in a test that will report into the system. Well, authentication of... So again, that's to the side of what this does, right? This isn't managing the actual data or flow of the test. This is sitting on top of the running tests and reporting what's happening from the tests. So it's not really the same domain. Any other questions? Okay.